Assalamualaikum to Arif. So today, my group will be presenting about the poet Ocean Vuong. So this is my group members. I am Nur Shahira and Nur Hayatun Amalin, Nur Nabila and also Nur Aina Syasya. So I will start with the explaining the background of the poet, which is Ocean Vuong. So this is the content of our presentation. Okay, so this is the poet that we have chose, which is Ocean Vuong. So Vuong was born on October 14, 1988 in Ho Chi Minh City, and he didn't grow up there. Instead, his early experience was influenced by his writing, especially his views on identity and also belonging. And then he was immigrated to Hartford, Connecticut at age of 2 after staying in a refugee camp in the Philippines, and Vuong's family moved to the US as a refugees. And then he learned English in kindergarten and became interested in poetry in elementary school. He struggled with learning a new language but found comfort in word stories, and also it has led to his love for poetry. And then he attended Manchester Community College, then studied international marketing at Pace University. Vuong actually started his education focusing on business, but then he realized that his passion was in literature. And then he was transferred to Brooklyn College, earning a BA in 19th Century American Literature 2012. He switched his major to literature, where he studied classic American writers who influenced his poetic style, and then completed an MFA in poetry from New York University in 2016. So Vuong has honed his craft and became known for his unique voice in poetry, which blend personal history with lyrical storytelling. And then moving on to the next part.
Central issue that the poet is concerned about or known for. So the first central issue is next slide, which is war and intergenerational trauma. So Vuong's family survived the Vietnam War, and its impact is a recurring theme in his work. So his writing explores the aftermath of war, its psychological toll, and how trauma is passed down through the generation. So the example of his work is Our Bed with Burning City, which is about the fall of Saigon. And the next central issue is refugee and immigrant experience, which is one reflect on the displacement and struggle of refugees, particularly by Vietnamese immigrants in America, because he also experienced this. He is also a Vietnamese immigrant that's living in America. And his work often highlights the disconnect between generation, where older refugees remember war, while the younger one, even though they didn't experience the war, but they struggle with assimilation and also cultural identity. So the example of his work is On Earth We Are Briefly Gorgeous. It is about Vietnamese American son writing to his illiterate mother. So the next central issue is about queerness and identity, which is Vuong openly discusses about his queer identity in his work, and his poetry and prose explore love, intimacy, masculinity, and also the challenges of being queer Asian immigrant in America. So the example of his work is Night Sky with Exit Wands, which is content themes of queer love and also desire. And the last central issue is about love, loss, and also family. Many of his works focus on his relationship between his mother and also grandmother, which is played key roles in his life. And his writing often deals with grief, loss, and also memory, particularly in relation to his mother's passing. So the example is his 2022 poetry collection, Time is a Mother, which is written after his mother's death. I'll pass to the next presenter for the next topic.
Alright, so now to the poet achievement. So actually the poet has a lot of achievement, but here is the biggest achievement from him, which are under poetry collection Night Sky with Exit Wounds 2016, and also novel collection On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous 2019. So the first achievement is under the poetry collection, which is Night Sky with Exit want. So he has won the Whiting Award 2016, which is an annual prize given to emerging writers in various genres, including poetry, fiction, non-fiction, and also drama. So a prize given to emerging writers with exceptional talents and also promise. So the second one is Forward Prize for Best First Collection 2017. It is a major British award for poetry, recognizing the best debut poetry collection, and it is part of the broader Forward Prizes for Poetry, which also include awards for best collection and also best single poem. The last award for this one is T.S. Eliot Prize 2017. It is one of the most prestigious poetry prizes in the world, awarded to the best new poetry collection in the English language. So the second award is On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous 2019. So the first one is longlisted for the National Book Award for Fiction 2019. It is one of the most prestigious literary prizes in the US that being longlisted in the award. So the second one is longlisted for the Carnegie Medal for Excellence in Fiction 2020. It is an award recognizing outstanding books for adult reader. So it is receiving this honor signifies a book's high literary quality and also can impact within the literary community. So now we move to the next slide. I will pass to the next presenter.
Alright, so for the notable works by the poet. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have here two types of work, which is the first one is poetry collections. We have two notable collection here, which is the first one, Night Sky with Exit Wounds, 2016, and the second one is Time is a Mother, 2022, which is quite recent. And for the novel, which is On Earth We Are Briefly Gorgeous, 2019. So it is quite recent that which is like the poets and poetry and also the novel written in 2016, 2019, and also 2022. Okay, so for the next one, we'll start with the first poem.
So the first poem that our group chose, which is A Bed with Burning City. Alright. Milk flower petals on the street like pieces of a girl's dress. May your days be merry and bright. He fills a teacup with champagne, brings it to her lips. Open, he says. She opens. Outside, a soldier spills out his cigarette as footsteps fill the square like stones fallen from the sky. May all your Christmas be white as the traffic guard unstrapped his holster, his hand running hem off her white dress, his black eyes, her black hair, a single candle, their shadows 2 weeks. A military truck speeds through the intersection, the sound of children shrieking inside. A bicycle hurled through a store window. When the dust rises, a black dog lies in the road panting. Its hind legs crush into the shine. Oh, a white Christmas. On the nightstand, a sprig of magnolia expands like a secret heard for the first time. The treetops glistened and children listened. The chief of police face down in a pool of Coca-Cola, a palm-sized photo of his father soaking behind his left ear. The sun moving through the city like a window. A white, I'm dreaming of a curtain of snow falling from her shoulder. Snow crackling against the window, snow shredded with gunfire. Red sky, snow on the tanks rolling over the city walls. A helicopter lifting the living just out of reach. The city so white, it is ready to ink. The radio saying, run, run, run. Milk flower petals on a black dog like pieces of a girl's dress. May your days be merry and bright. She is saying something neither of them can hear. The hotel rocks beneath them, the bed a field of ice cracking. Don't worry, he says, as the first bomb brightens their faces. My brother have won the war, and tomorrow the lights go out. I'm dreaming, to hear sleigh bells in the snow. In the square below, a nun on fire runs silently toward a god. Open, he says. She opens. So that's for the poem. Now we move to the meaning of the stanza.
Alright, so for this poem, they didn't have like the structured stanza. So we pick the phrases and make it as a first one stanza. I'm sorry. So the first stanza, meaning the image of milk flower, petals evoke innocence and beauty, but they are described as resembling fragments of a girl dress. So this suggesting a loss, violence, or even death. So the use of White Christmas introduced irony, which is White Christmas is a song associated with warmth and nostalgia. Now it signals chaos and destruction at the Saigon. So the next stanza, the meaning of the next stanza is an intimate scene unfold as a man and woman share champagne, but the war introduced. But the word intrudes. So the word open carries dual meaning, which is the first meaning is literal meaning, which is drinking the champagne, and the second is symbolic meaning, which is submission or vulnerability. So the footsteps fill the square phrase suggests mounting tension as soldiers prepare for violence during that time. So again, the White Christmas song ironically invoked as whiteness, which is whiteness, we symbolize as snow, peace is corrupted by the war. And the next stanza, a moment of physical closeness between the men and women, but the imagery hints of fragility. So the white dress, which is basically symbolize purity and innocence, now tainted by the war. And the two weeks metaphor suggests unity, but also foreshadow extinguishments either of life or of the man and women relationships. So the next stanza, the poem shift outside. The poem shift outside just now. The previous stanzas, it's like described about the in the building or the room. So now it shift outside, which is the war. Chaos unfolds in the street. The children shrieking suggests terror and displacement, and the black dog with crushed heel legs symbolize destruction, innocent loss, and also suffering because of the war. And the phrase "shine of a white Christmas" is deeply ironic. The traditional joy of the holiday, which is the original of like the traditional joy of the holiday, is contrast with the death and devastation. There's no like the joy of holiday during that time. Alright, for the next stanza. A rare moment of quiet, yet still with tension, is happening during that time. The magnolia, which is basically symbolizes purity and endurance, contrasts with the destruction outside of the Saigon. So the phrase "expands like a secret" suggests a hidden truth unfolding, possibly about the war or the character's fate during the war. Okay, for the stanza 6, a distorted version of White Christmas continues. Ocean Wong's continue to pick lyrics from the White Christmas. The chief of police, dead in a pool of Coca-Cola, blends consumerism with war violence. And the photo of his father symbolizes and suggests lost lineage, history, and the collapse of authority of the people at the Saigon. And for the stanza 7, the meaning for the stanza 7 is White Christmas, again mentioned in this stanza. It is personified as a widow symbolizing mourning, and the curtain of snow could symbolize both innocence and the erasure of memory through the war. And for the next stanza, the repeated snow imagery is subverted. It now represents destruction, which is we can see in the phrase shaded with gunfire. And also the red sky, meaning both dawn and bloodshed, keep continuing. The war is keep continuing. And the helicopter lifting the living just out of reach reflects the desperation of those living behind during the evacuation. And for the next stanza, the city so wide it is ready for in suggests history is about to re-return. The white, which is the purity and also innocent, is overwritten by war's brutal reality. And the radio saying run, run, run mirrors the frantic evacuations. And the repetition of mid-flower petals and pieces of girls' dress reinforce the theme of innocent loss because of this war. And for the stanza 10, another ironic use of White Christmas song again, and the lovers are disconnected, her words are unheard, you are drawn out by the war, and the halted rods symbolize or suggest bombing or tremors from explosion because of the gunfire and also the bomb. And the battlefield of ice cracking hints at forthcoming destruction is coming again, and they need to face it. And for the stanza 11, his don't worry is irony and futile. And the first bomb brightens their face, which is usually light is hopeful, meaning hopeful. But here it signals destruction because the bomb keep coming to them. And the lights go out suggests death or the end of their world. And for the last stanza, the song White Christmas, again mentioned by the Ocean One in this last stanza, it fades into a broken dream. The nun on fire running toward her God represent ultimate sacrifice, suffering, and also religious faith amidst the war. And the final repetition, open, he says, she opens, recalls submission, helplessness, and cyclical violence mirroring the forced vulnerability throughout the poem. So that's all for the meaning of the stanza Outback with the Burning City. And for the literary devices, we found three literary devices that have been highlighted in this poem. The first one is repetition, which is repeating words or phrases to create emphasis or emotion. So the first example is I'm dreaming, I'm dreaming. So this phrase reinforces disillusionment and helplessness as dreams of a better future are shattered by the war. And the second example is open. He says she opens. It is repeated at the beginning of the poem and also at the end of the poem. This suggests submission of vulnerability and inevitability and also repeating history, and also the people at the cycle is powerlessness. And the second literary devices is symbolism, which is object or actions represent something deeper than its literal meaning. So for first example is mid-flower petals on the street like pieces of a girl's dress. This suggests innocent loss, violence, and also death of the people that didn't do mistake, but they it's like they suffer from the war, even though they didn't do anything. So for the second example is helicopter lifting the living just out of reach. This symbolizes desperation and abandonment of the Saigon people, and this referring to the United States evacuation of Saigon, leaving many behind because of this war. And the last literary devices is imagery. It is vivid description engaging the five senses. So in this poem, we found four senses of imagery. So the first one is visual imagery, which is we can see flower petals on the street like pieces of a girl's dress. So we can see it is a delicate but yet violent image. And the second imagery is auditory, which is we can hear the radio saying run, run, run. We can hear it is very urgency and very chaos during that time. So the third imagery is tactile imagery, which is the battlefield of ice breaking. We can feel the coldness and also breaking apart because of the building being bombing because of the war. So we can feel the coolness during that time. And for the olfactory imagery, which is we can smell the spirit of magnolia as scents, like a secret heard for the first time. Magnolia scent is like nice and also very fragrant, but it is contrast to a war, which is smell of gunfire and also bomb. So I think that's all for the literary devices. Next slide.
Alright, so now we move to the theme. So the first theme is loss and destruction. So the burning city may symbolize war, expectation or personal grief. Like this theme often reflects historical tragedies such as bombing and also invasions. The second theme is love amidst chaos, a contrast between personal intimacy and also widespread catastrophe. So love here may not only be romantic but also familiar or communal. The third theme is survival and resilience. Enduring event as the world around crumbles, like the character in the poem might rise from the ruins, determined to rebuild or escape despite overwhelming loss. So that's for the theme. Now we move to the issues that highlight in the poem. So, there are two issues here. The first one is war and also violence. So, the destruction of the city may symbolize conflict, war, or also political unrest. So, the poem might describe bombs falling, gunfire echoing through empty streets, or civilians fleeing their homes. The second issues here is love in a time of crisis. So, a couple or individuals clinging to love amidst chaos. The lover here in the poem might spend one last night together, knowing that war will separate them. Perhaps one is a soldier going to battle, or both are refugees fleeing in different directions. So, I guess that's from the first poem that we choose. Now we move to our second poem. I will pass to the next.
Okay, for the second poem, we chose Someday I Will Love Ocean Vuong. So I will read the poem first. Ocean, don't be afraid. The end of the road is so far ahead. It is already behind us. Don't worry, your father is only your father until one of you forgets, like how the spine will remember its wings. No matter how many times our knees kiss the pavement. Ocean, are you listening? The most beautiful part of your body is wherever your mother's shadow falls. Here's the house with childhood, whittled down to a single red tripwire. Don't worry, just call it horizon and you will never reach it. Here's today, jump, I promise, it's not a lifeboat. Here's the man whose arms are wide enough to gather your living, and here the moment just after the lights go out, when you can still see the faint torch between his legs. How you use it again and again to find your own hands. You ask for a second chance and are given a mouth to empty out of. Don't be afraid. The gunfire is only the sound of people trying to live a little longer and failing. Ocean, ocean, get up. The most beautiful part of your body is where it's headed, and remember, loneliness is still time spent with the world. Here's the room with everyone in it, your dead friends passing through you like wine, through a wine chime. Here's a desk with grim lake and a brick to make it last. Yes, here's a room so warm and blood close. I swear you will wake and mistake these walls for skin. So I will pass to the next presenter to explain the meaning.
Okay, so now we'll talk about the meaning of this poem. First, out of all, what we can see here is there's a lot of repetition where the poet said, Ocean, don't be afraid. Ocean is his own name, and don't be afraid is like an assurance for himself. So this poem is actually self-reflective, and also it's like a letter addressed for himself. It's like especially for his younger version of him. And then this actually, as we can see, it's quite direct. It's like it's more to exploring self-love, exploring the identity, and also the poet tried to heal himself, like trying to handle the trauma and also the vulnerability. Unlike the first one, the first poem just now, as my friends just now has presented, it's about the war, it's about the external chaos. But the second poem here, Someday I'll Love Ocean Vuong, is an internal aspect of a poem. It's like the poet is having internal crisis here. Okay, so we are not going to go line by line here because Shahira has already recited just now. I'll just explain it in like a few segments. I have segmented this poem into 3 segments because we can try to understand it through the emotional and also thematic shifts. So the opening one is the acknowledgement of pain and doubts. It's like, ocean, don't be afraid, which is the line in the poem, which is a direct comforting to address the poet, a younger self, like how to assure. It's like, don't be afraid. Okay, so behind this line is actually the poet tried to acknowledge the struggles and also the everything, every single issue that he was facing back then. It's like the self-worth and also the identity. It reflects on the past vulnerabilities, and also it captures the difficulty of living authentically in a world that often rejects difference. So the voice is tender as if trying to soothe the wind of his younger self. Okay, so the next one is the middle one, which is the confrontation and reflection. So I took this line from the poem, the most beautiful part of your body is where it's headed. So it suggests growth, transformation, and also healing. The speaker is like directly confront the shame and also internalized pain of the past. Through the metaphor and imagery, he described the weight of cultural and also familial expectation, as well as the sense of being annihilated, tied to like cureness and also being an immigrant. So what we can see here is the poet is facing two kind of problem here, which is the first one in terms of sexuality, which is cureness, and also as well as being an immigrant. And then it also include like moment of reflection in like to express the resilience, to emphasize survival as an act of defiance. And the closing is the third part, which is also the last part, is the reconciliation and also hope. The heart breaks but keeps beating. This line is so beautiful in my opinion because why? Because it suggests that pain and healing can coexist. It's like at the same time we are hurting, but at the same time we can heal. So the poem shift toward hope and reconciliation, assuring the younger self of the poet that love both from the others and for oneself is possible. And it closes like on a tender yet profound note, expressing the beauty of living authentically despite hardship. What we can see here is, I'm sorry, a moment. Okay, so here, what does the author mean by authentic? Authentic here is based on the sexual terms. Maybe the poet is like had other kind of sexuality. Alright. So we'll move on to the next one is literary device use.
Okay, so I will explain the literary devices used in this poem. So the first one is imagery. So it mentioned that our knees kiss the pavement. So this phrase symbolizes struggle, prayer, or humility. And the second one, the faint torch between his legs. So it creates a haunting visual, exploring themes of vulnerability, identity, and intimacy. So basically, the poet used the imagery to help the readers immerse in his emotional experience, which makes the abstract feelings like pain, nostalgia, and longing more tangible and also relatable. So the second one is metaphor. The first example is your father is only your father until one of you forgets. So this memory shapes identity and also family relationship, but can change over time. And second one is loneliness is still time spent with the world. So this redefines loneliness as a form of connection. So the poet used these metaphors to convey the complex emotion and also ideas which transform personal experience into universal reflection on memory, identity, and also relationships. So the third literary devices used is personifications. So the first example, the spine won't remember its wings. So this shows memory as a human trait in the spine, which symbolize the change and feeling disconnected from the past. And the second one, loneliness is still time spent with the world. So this describes loneliness as a companion, which suggests solitude can lead to self-reflection instead of feeling alone. So the poet used this personification to create emotional depth and also resonance, which makes the abstract concepts like memory and also loneliness more tangible. Moving on to the next part.
Okay. So for the theme, we have 3 themes here. The first one is acceptance and also healing, which is the poem is actually quite like a journey. It's like for self-love. For the author, it's like he reassures himself that he will one day fully embrace who he is despite the past pain and also the struggles. And then the second one is also is trauma and memory. He had like personal and collective trauma, showing how the past lingers, but also he shows how someone like a person can move forward. And then the third one is love and forgiveness. The poems suggest that love, especially self-love, is a process that takes time. It involves forgiving oneself, also making peace with one's history. So it is very important for us to acknowledge the pain in order to heal. Right. So next one. Oh, sorry.
Okay,
Shahira.
I will continue with the last part, which is the issues for this poem. So the first issue is the weight of trauma. So basically in the poem, the poet talks about the emotional pain he carries, not just for his own life but also from his family past. So he mentioned that experience like moving to a new country, facing war, and also dealing with family issues. So the second one is the loneliness and emotional isolation. So the poet express his feeling of loneliness throughout the poem. So it seems like he feels cut off from the world, and even when surrounded by people, he feels lonely. So he spent a lot of his time in his head and also reflecting on his thought and also emotions. So the third one is memory and forgetting. So in this poem, a poet mentioned that he explores the complex role of memory, which is in shaping his identity. So some memory bring him comfort and the other are painful. So it reminds us of his past. So he talks about the struggle of wanting to remember important things, like wishing he could forget the painful and also his past memories. Okay, I think that is all from our group. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay dah. Okay dah.